can hear an echo, so I think it has. Great. Okay, thanks very much indeed. Can I welcome everyone to the meeting? Can I wish everybody a happy new year? Can I congratulate John Clark on his richly deserved honour in the New Year's list? John, do we bow or curtsy? What's the procedure? Not anymore. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Can I then move the minutes of the last meeting, November's meeting? Everybody happy with the minutes? Thank you. Bruce, yes.
Yeah, just a quick point. I don't know why we seem to drop back into it, but I couldn't make the last meeting because I've got another other county council business. And then they put an A against my name. We used to put an S for substitute as opposed to A for absence, because A for absence means you are absent and you haven't given your apologies. So I don't know whether you could do something about that, Pete. Yeah,
I'll take it back. We did change the format once, you know, when we've gone for everybody's a member, and so that you can give us, when we started being able to give you apologies at the last minute, so there was a change in format, but I can bring it up with Keith.
Yeah, if you could please, because obviously that affects the attendance record of a councillor, and therefore if their residents are going on the website and looking at the attendance record, it has that implication.
Yeah, but the attendance record is recorded online, and your excuses and apologies are recorded online. Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you all. Can I ask then if there are any apologies for absence today or any attendance of any substitutes? Peter, have you got a list?
Yeah, I have. Thank you, Chair. So we've had apologies from Councillor Waters, and Councillor Andy Meakin replaces Councillor Hollis for this meeting only. Thank you.
Thank you. So item 3 is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from members or officers? I don't see any. In which case, I'll move on to item 4, which is the financial monitoring report for period 8. Nigel, have you got anything to add to the report?
Thank you, Chairman. Table 1 on page 8 shows the budget forecast for the council. This indicates an underspend at year end of 1.3 million is anticipated. However, this assumes all the contingency budget will be spent. There have been some movement in the variances at committee level, and you'll notice that Children's and Young People's and Adult Social Care and Public Health Committees are improving slightly, and the details of the significant variances are set out in the report. As I mentioned at the last meeting, responding to a changing pandemic picture is adding to the complexity of forecasting for our budget managers, and will explain why this forecast is more of an evolving picture than in prior years. Since our last meeting, the Provisional Local Government Settlement was published on the 16th of December, and in many cases this confirmed the announcements by the Chancellor as the outcome of the 2021 Comprehensive Spending Review in late October. And although that CSR was for 3 years, it was a 1-year settlement, which brings more difficulty for planning and setting budgets for future years. Although there in the report is set out the detail, the headlines are the core spending power is increasing by an average of 6.9%. It confirmed additional social care grant of 9.2 million, covering both children's and adult social care. It confirmed a one-off services grant for next year of 7.5 million. It confirmed a 2.4 million market sustainability and fair cost of funding grant, which will be the initial funding for the preparation for the adult social care reforms. The council tax threshold will remain at 1.99% for next year, with an additional 1% flexibility for the adult social care precept, plus any carried forward from the previous years. Consultation for the much delayed fair funding review is expected in spring next year, or this year, and no additional COVID grant was announced. Moving on to the capital programme, table 3 on page 12 sets out the latest variation to the overall programme, and the following paragraphs set out the significant variances and the request to amend the programme due to additional grant and slippages on various programmes. This report also updates members on Treasury management activities, and it also updates members on the performance data for the second quarter for procurement, accounts receivable and accounts payable. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Nigel. I'll formally move the recommendations, which are on page 24.
Form second, Chairman.
Thank you, Roger. And I'll open it up. Any questions or any comments? Jim?
Thank you, Chair. Just one comment, mostly on the actual settlement, to be honest. And that, I think from this committee, we really ought to be asking the government, pressing the government, that we need a long-term settlements back to the 3 years. I know there's more to come, but it doesn't actually help our officers, doesn't help this committee, doesn't help our services on a year-by-year basis. It's like moving from one possible crisis to the next. So as a committee, I would urge the chairman to actually write and insist that we actually do start getting proper funding for district council, county councils, the whole bag of tricks. I do blame the government of whatever colour it is. This time it happens to be Conservative. But they're ignoring local government at their own peril. We're the ones that actually carry the can. We're the ones that actually do the work for the public. So yes, I thank the officers for the report. It's a good report, and they're working well within their yearly basis. So general criticism, nothing to do with the report per se, only that it's unfair to our officers, it's unfair to the public to just have yearly settlements. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jim. I don't disagree, and it's a point that we make very regularly at all levels. Nigel, with his Society of County Treasurers hat on, and the leader in Parliament, and all of us through CCN and LGA and everywhere else, every opportunity. I've got Andy next. Andy.
Thank you, Chair. Paragraph 30 outlines the provisional local government settlement following the October 2021 autumn budget and spending review. This states the core spending power increases by an average of 6.9, assuming all authorities levy the maximum preset allowed. Would the chairman confirm that the maximum that the council tax be put up by this council is 4.99% when you include the adult social care preset? And if the council put council tax up by this amount, will you confirm that that will lead to our council tax bills going up by a minimum of £70 per annum for an average Band D property? What are the longer term penalties for not putting council tax up by the maximum? Further to this, how difficult is it for the council to do accurate medium-term social strategy when we are continually getting one-year settlements? How much guesswork do we have to undertake, and would back calls for a 3-year settlement to give us more certain going forward?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, obviously, the budget debate will come in this chamber at the end of February. We haven't made any final decisions on council tax levels yet. You'll see our proposals relatively soon. And of course, you'll have the opportunity to put forward an alternative budget when we come to the budget debate in here in 6-8 weeks' time. So we'll look forward to that. And I think you make the same point that Jim made about the 1-year versus 3-year settlement. We'd all agree with you on that one. Thanks for that. Bruce. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think both Jim and yourself should. I point you to the CCN analysis of the settlement, and you will find for the first time Nottinghamshire is in the. I think we're fifth, is it, Nigel? Out of all the county councils in the country, as far as settlement is concerned. And actually, if you look at the analysis that was also done by the County Councils Network, you will also see, it was very done extremely quickly after the announcement, you will see actually that Michael Gove has taken on board the levelling up agenda, and I think Middlesbrough is at the top of the list as far as the settlement is concerned, and they are looking at a longer term settlement, but they've got quite a considerable amount of work, even more work to do on the levelling up agenda. So Nottinghamshire has come out really, really well as far as the settlement is concerned. While this is never enough, it is a good settlement, and I think our leader and Chief Executive are to be applauded for the amount of work that they've been doing down in Westminster to achieve the result that we've had.
I thought it all came about after you'd been to the CCN conference at the last meeting, Bruce. Thanks for that. Are there any other questions or comments? If not, then it's been moved and seconded. Can I see everybody in favour of the report? Thank you. That looks like it's unanimous. Thank you. So, item 5 is the increasing residential capacity for looked after children. Who is picking this one up? Lawrence, you are, obviously. Anything to add to the report, Lawrence?
No, nothing to add, but happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll move the recommendation then, which are on page 34.
Second, Chairman.
Thank you, Roger. Are there any questions or comments on the report? Yeah, Andy?
Thank you, Chair. You're asking us today to release for funding for a 4-bedroom children's home agreed by the Policy Committee on the 18th of March 2020, where we only know the location of one of these, that being Savile Road in Skegby, Sutton Ashfield. The average prices on Savile Road, because I checked up in December 2021, was between 215 and 300,000. This compared to the average house price of between 125 to 150 for Sutton Ashfield. You are again making the mistake of buying properties on roads which are significantly higher than the average house prices. You paid over the double the local house prices for the house you bought on Sudbury Drive Uthwaite, and we are doing so again. Do you accept that it is time, when the children and young people's budget is out of control, it's decisions like this that are not helping? The Children and Young People Scrutiny Committee is on a spending spree, more Park Lane than Oak Kent Road, and that's why the budgets are suffering.
Yeah, no, I don't accept that. We've had this question previously at full council. I think the figures actually aren't correct, and we went into detail of that in the answer at full council some time ago. But I think, you know, when we think about the youngsters that are going to be occupying these children's homes, I think they've had a very troubled and difficult start to life, and I think they deserve something a bit more than the average, which seems to be the implication that you would rather we did. As I say, I don't think those figures are correct in any case, but we want to give these youngsters the best possible chance and the best kind of restart, if you like. And I think as well, if you look at the outcomes that we're already seeing through these homes, it is definitely the right way to go. I make no apology if we are spending over the average on that. I don't know, Lawrence, whether you want to add to that.
Yes, I will do. Thank you. I think it's important just to talk about the choice of properties that we're making. We have a particular specification for children's homes, both in terms of a practical nature and what we need in terms of Ofsted registration. So this is not just a home with bedrooms for the children. It needs office space for the staff. It needs sleeping space for the staff. So normally we're looking at 4 or 5 bedroom homes. And given all of the issues that we have, particularly around planning, we also need to make sure there's adequate off-road parking for that staff as well, so that we're not having issues with planning and highways. So the choice of buildings is actually quite restrictive, and they need to be large homes in particular locations to meet those specifications. There's also a number of clearances that we need to do in terms of opening children's homes, both with our safeguarding partners and with the police. So in terms of crime levels and a whole range of environmental factors around these homes to make sure they're safe for what constitutes some of the most vulnerable children that in our society that we are charged with looking after. So taking all of that into account, it is often quite limited in terms of what we can get, particularly as we also want them close to the home communities from where these children come from, so we don't disrupt their schooling, their community links and their friendships. So it's just to say that we are really careful about where we purchase property for all of those reasons. But at the same time, it is restrictive, and therefore the number of properties that we have to choose from is not just as simple as buying a family home.
Yeah, thank you, Lawrence. Roger, you'd indicated.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Well, both you and Lawrence have probably sort of covered what I was going to say, actually. I mean, because at the end of the day, this is an investment for the council anyway. So we're not sort of, you know, it's long-term investment, so the money's not being sort of thrown away. But I think, Lawrence, if you'd explained that, well, you explained in the notes, it would have been, because it does look a bit expensive for a 2-bedroom house. But, you know, we're expanding on it, saying it's really want a 3- or 4-bedroom house to cover the workforce, etc., car parking, would make it really look a bit better if you can understand that. And at the end of the day, why can't we give these kids a chance to live in a nice area, give them some proper social mobility? You know, why do we have to keep, you know, you said made the thing about the Old Kent Road and Regent's Park. Well, why not? Why should we? No, we're trying to give young children who had a bad start in life a good, better start in life. So maybe put them in a better neighbourhood is better for them.
Thank you, Roger. Totally agree. Andre?
Yes, it's interesting from Ashfield again. Ashfield and Mansfield, as you know, probably the toughest areas in Nottinghamshire. We have the biggest call on needs like this. What we've seen in Mansfield, we had 4 applications in Mansfield. I mean, 3 of them got turned down. In Ashfield's the same. I think they do practice a bit of NIMBYism in Ashfield. They talk up the need for housing for children, but don't want it as long as it's not in their area. This has happened, so this is what happened. Perhaps, and it is a problem, it is a real problem when you come for the houses, as you know. There's always lots of objections stirred up by councillors who are grandstanding, who are looking for votes, and don't understand the real needs of these children. One child that's out of control can cost this council thousands of pounds and the community, causes antisocial behaviour, what have you. But perhaps to get over this in the future, because you're going to have problems buying these houses, you're going to upset all residents in these areas. We should look to building new ones on the scale what we want, which would be in this. We've got the land, perhaps a little bit away from where we are, but I don't like this where people are making political gains out of these kids who come from tough families. As you know, in Ashfield, Andrew, it's tough, and these kids have real problems. They don't want putting it in some terraced house somewhere to struggle. They want going into some with decent care and realising what life can be if they get their lives together. And I support this altogether. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Andrea. It's worth saying as well, I think on the recently completed property in Ashfield, we had an open day for neighbours, and many of the neighbours had opposed it in the first place, but actually people are very impressed with what's been put there and with the way that it's going to be managed. So I think engaging neighbours once we've got these places up and running is fantastic. Bruce.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm just really following on what Andre was talking. I mean, I literally find the attitude from the Ashfield Independents on this issue astounding, really. Our most important consideration, as far as we're concerned, is administration of the children and locating the children, A, in the right place and B, in the right property. And if that property does cost a little bit more than the average, then so be it. It seems as though the Ashfield Independents consideration is buying the cheapest property possible to put these children in, and that has got to be the wrong decision for the children that we have got in care. And we will continue to go down this route irrespective of what you are going to say, and we will also expose your views and the views of your deputy leader on this particular subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. I had Mike next and then Jim.
Thanks, Chairman. Paragraph 35 says it all for me. The investment returns of 41,000 return back to the county. That has to be the right thing financially, which is the committee we're in now. But if we took this to the Children's Committee, we will all be investing in the children. So the two tie in perfectly for me.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Mike. I agree with you. And I should say as well, we've asked for a 25% uplift in the funding because obviously the housing market is rocketing at the moment. We may not need all of that, so this is a kind of worst case. We don't want to ask for a bit more and then come back and ask for a bit more again if the market continues to increase, but this is a kind of, that's a maximum if you like. Jim.
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't going to speak on this, but agree with most of what's been said so far, particularly it's actually an investment, Councillor Jackson and ourselves. But just one tiny disagreement with Councillor Camilleri, and that is to actually to build them slightly out of the way. I actually agree with Bruce Lawton on this one. They have to be in the right place, and the right place is to be near the community, because that's the whole point, is to get them back into community. So I'd hate to see them, being specially built outside. Within the community, yes, but I've got no actual problem with this, but they need to have proper accommodation. The staff need accommodation. There's already been mentioned the parking, etc., etc. And it needs to be quality, and that's what we actually do need. So I've got absolutely no problem with it. But the wording could have been a little bit better, as Councillor Jackson has already said. And I look forward to the next report.
Thank you, Jim. Andrew wants to come back, because I'm not sure that's
just, I didn't mean put them out of the way, Jim. I mean, you can build something that's probably better for the needs rather than having to alter the house itself. I absolutely agree that they should be within the community, but we've got to make sure these communities understand clearly what it's about. I don't think as comms we are clear letting the community know what these houses do. And it's not a case they're going to come and smash the place up and cause antisocial behaviour. It's the fact that they're going to try and get these kids on the right and straight and narrow.
Yeah. Thanks, Andre. Mike.
Thank you, Chair. I happen to have lived in Ashfield some time ago and worked there for many years. My wife is from Ashfield, as our friend over there knows, and using an average price to make a political point is a nonsense, because there are significant numbers of terraced houses in Ashfield. Band-Aid properties, probably the highest, if not the highest in Nottinghamshire, probably one of the highest in Nottinghamshire, and therefore to use an average house price is a nonsense, because it means nothing. An average price for a 4 or 5 bedroom house might be a better analogy, and if we were spending over that average price, then I would be concerned. But to quote an average price in Ashfield and then try and use it to make a political point is an absolute nonsense.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, I can't. Oh, John, sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. And the savings not just in section 35 there of 41,600. It goes on. If we can get these people on the right track, it could be millions of pounds, and it's also the quality of life that those people will receive. If you remember years ago when the schools were falling apart, we all, across the party, decided to build some better schools to make them better, the environment, everything else. It's a bit like planting daffodils with kids. They don't walk through them so often now because they end up planting them. And I think this is, this is similar to it. We must do our best to try and get some of these people long term. Some people may disagree, but I think this is the right way forward.
Absolutely right. It's about the kids and not about the property. Okay, thank you for that. I mean, that's been a good debate. I can't see anybody else wanting to speak. So can I see everybody in favour of the recommendations? Is anybody against? And is that an abstention? Okay, one abstention. Thank you. So that's carried. Item 6 is ICT operational performance for Q2. We've got Paul with us. Anything to add to the report? Paul, anything you want to highlight?
There's a couple of things I'd like to highlight. One's the change issue. We've had a very high level of change, 1.6 a day if you took a full 7-day week. And that's meant that we've had a higher level of failure than we would normally experience, but they've all now been implemented and they were backed out successfully as well. And the spend profile's spiky because of license costs that hit us at a particular point in the year. And also the WAN rollout has been delayed slightly through the COVID pandemic. There's only one other thing I would mention. One's tech debt. We'll come back to this committee with a plan of how we're going to address that over the next 2 to 3 years. So.
Okay, we'll look forward to seeing that. I'll move the recommendations. Thank you, Roger. Are there any questions or comments on the report? No? There we go. Got off lightly there, Paul. Nobody wants to show their ignorance.
There's a question now. You got Reg.
Oh, we've got Reg. Come on, Reg.
Are we well and truly cyber protected? That's the key thing, because if you read about what's happening around the country today with technology, cyber is a big item, and how's the council fixed when it comes to that?
Paul.
So, why I mentioned technical debt is because that does give us some cause for concern, and we're focused on making sure that we are protected. You'll have been cited on the Log4j issue that occurred just before Christmas. We actually went through our standard processes and we were able to ensure that the council was protected against that, and we are working with our suppliers to make sure there's nothing else that we're just not cited on at the moment, and doing regular scans. So we have multiple layers of protection, but I could not sit here hand on heart and say we'll never get attacked, because the nature of these types of attack is that they exploit vulnerabilities that you're not cited on. But we have got multiple layers of security in place, and we're looking to address the technical debt issue, which would then take operating systems up to a level where they're not exploited.
Thanks for that. And I think there was an absolutely staggering figure you've given me before about the number of potential attacks that you've that you've battered off, and it's hundreds of thousands a month or something ridiculous.
Yeah, you get tens of thousands every month because people just attempt to exploit system weaknesses, and they have bots that attack you.
Yeah, it's incredible. Okay, thanks very much for that. I don't think there's anybody else with a question, so I'll ask everybody in favour of the recommendation. Thank you. So that's unanimous. That's carried. Item 7 is Integrated Community Equipment Loans Service Tender. This is Casual Michael, or both of you. Michael.
Thank you very much, Chair. Well, there's an echo there. I'm joined by my colleagues Sarah and Helen.
Let's just try and sort out the IT.
Take the mic off that.
No, that's been on all the day.
Hello.
Is there anyone from IT in the room that might be able to help? Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up from the... Yes, I think we're all right. Try again, Mike. I think we're sorted.
I've been muted. That's good.
Great. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I'm joined by my colleague Sarah and Helen on the call, and they're from the Partnership Board. We've prepared the report for you, and I've got a presentation. So the report's for the commissioning of the Integrated Community Equipment Loan Service, and a new contract is scheduled to commence on the 1st of April 2023. So during this year, we'll be running a competitive procedure with negotiation to select a single provider to deliver the service. I'll launch the PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully it works. I will try to, Is that better?
Great.
Thank you. Okay, so the ISILs provides loaned community equipment directly into people's own homes, and that's throughout Nottinghamshire and Nottingham City. It's a complex service with collaboration between the county and city local authorities and the CCGs. Using a competitive procedure with negotiation has advantages over a standard open tendering process, as it allows commissioners to negotiate aspects of a bidder's response on how they intend to deliver that service. So commissioners want to be able to fully understand a bidder's response and to maximise sustainability and to explore innovations within the service. Bidders will be able to fully understand the requirement and discuss any areas of concern. So on this slide, it explains some of the benefits of using this procedure. So we run the tender in a number of stages. Initially, we'll shortlist bidders to only those who have the technical capability and experience to deliver such a complex service. And these are the stages that will follow. So the pre-qualification stage is where bidders submit evidence of their financial standing through to their professional ability to provide the service. So the invitation to submit initial tender response, for those bidders that we've shortlisted, we will ask them to submit an initial tender. These tenders are then evaluated, and that will inform the negotiating stage. It's anticipated that key aspects of the service will be discussed at negotiation stage. After negotiation has finished, and once the commissioners feel that they will receive a comprehensive tender response, we will issue the final tender documents, and the shortlisted bidders will be requested to submit their final tender response. The bidder that scores the highest will be the preferred bidder and we will proceed to awarding the contract. I'm now happy to receive any questions.
Okay, thanks very much for that. We were talking about this just before the meeting, and I think our members certainly agreed that it's a good service at the moment, so we're very keen to make sure that it's at least as good as the service the Red Cross are providing for us at the moment, and I think that gives some reassurance that this isn't just about, you know, giving a contract to the cheapest bidder that's out there. I'll move the recommendations, as I've just been reminded to do. Thank you, Roger. Jim?
Thank you. Just from that report, it's good to see that there's putting all these qualifications in to actually get the tender, seeing what's happened with tenders nationally. But on the pre-tender, you've actually got they've got to prove their financial stability, which is fine. But in the in your starting of it, you said they had to prove they were capable. So have they actually put down proving their financial stability as well as their experience? So do they have anywhere in that contract say, well, we've got 10 years experience of this or 3 years? So anywhere within the actual start-up, the pre-tender, is it written down that they do have experience?
Lots of nodding, so yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, there's a selection stage. The pre-qualification stage covers experience as well as financial capability and technical capability. There's a series of questions that through the selection stage that will get to the right providers to be shortlisted.
Great, thanks for that. Reg?
Yeah, you went through your process there. Have you got a critical path of when each decision will be taken as you go through the process? Because you've got a destination time, 2023, and you've got between now and 2023 to get there. Have you got sort of a critical path which says, I'll do this by there and that by that and that by that as you go through the process? Because you didn't sort of say anything about a critical path analysis or how you're going to make it all happen. And I'll say on the back of it is I had a compliment this past week on the service we provide now by one of my constituents saying how well it worked for them in their case because they needed the service.
Thank you, Reg. Michael?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, yeah, there is a path that we follow a time scale. So the pre-selection stage will be out essentially for about 30 days. After that, then it is actually quite an open process because it's negotiation and it may take a month, could take 3 months, could take 6 months. That's why there's no particular timeline set until the end process, really. Say the new contract needs to start on the 1st of April 2023. That negotiating time is flexible. Yeah.
Do you want it to come back, Reg?
There's only one thing I would say to that is you've got 2023, you have to have a decision made. And I would have thought that as you get towards 2023, you don't want in the last 24 hours be making a decision that may not be actually the decision you'd like to make.
Yeah, we've scheduled a draft timeline, and it will be October of this year that we plan to aim to have the announcement made of the contract. So there's a transition period from the old contract potentially to the new, depending on the outcome of the tender process.
Okay, thank you for that. Mike, you've indicated.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. For me, the strategic context is the most prevalent part of this, because that'll be where the results are found or seen from our point of view with the investment. How will it be, and recognising that there will be an ever increase in demand on this sort of contract presently, how will we gauge that? What results will we get back to see the benefits of where we are, and how will that compare to the changes in increased demand as well? We'll be able to see the differences.
I'd probably hand over to Sarah, who's the expert on this side of it.
Okay, Sarah.
Oh, good morning, folks. Part and parcel of the contract, both on the current providers and any future providers, is there is a very comprehensive requirement of reporting where they have to feed back to us on what they do and don't get up to on a month-by-month basis. And we have comprehensive built-in procedures to meet with each other on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis to do on contract management, to observe what's been happening. Particularly through the last 2 years, we started the beginning of COVID meeting daily and then gradually dropped that off to every other day and then every once a week to be able to manage and see what was happening and what we've done. A lot of what we've developed is a very strong partnership working with the providers, a very open approach with each other of both challenge and support to be able to say, right, how can we solve this if there is a problem, and what's the best way for the future? Because we're not just talking about making a knee-jerk decision. We want to make a long-term strategic plan whereby this service is sustainable and will keep doing what we need it to do. We know that the service currently has on average about 7% growth each year in terms of the volumes of equipment that are delivered through the service. Service handles about £26 million worth of equipment a year. This year, we're already seeing increases of 9% increase in deliveries and nearly 20% increase in collections. So I'm expecting sort of, instead of being 26 million for last year, it'll be around about 27, possibly even 27 and a half. But part and parcel of what we have now is a very clear bank of reports which give us complete direction about what's happening, what level of detail we get, and that level of challenge that we get with our providers that we have now is very, very robust, and it's very open. And we truly have been working in complete partnership, particularly over this last 2 years, even by having the flexibilities to say, what are we short of, what do we need to get, and being quite flexible about what we needed to get to make sure people weren't left in any kinds of dire straits without equipment. I don't think we've missed much at all, if anything. So we really have just made it happen. I'm not sure if that's answered your question.
I think it has. You wanted to come back though, Mike?
Yeah, just to say, I think you've answered the question brilliantly in the fact that you have such a strong partnership with people that are delivering the services. I would ask that if there's anything that we're missing is the most important part about what we want to hear about. We can applaud everything that's going forward and, you know, your increases and all that's fantastic. But if there's a negative underlying issue, and if you bring it back to us, then this is where we want to hear. And hopefully then we can correct it together with you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. And it puts into context when you mentioned 27.5 million pieces of equipment in a year. It's quite incredible, isn't it?
£26.5 million worth, apologies.
Oh, I'm with you. Okay, but even so, yeah, it's quite something.
Huge.
Yeah. Andre.
Well, I think it's an excellent service. We were discussing it earlier on, and it's just going on to the actual fact of the equipment. There's a lot of this equipment left hanging around in houses, and people won't take it back. That must be a staggering amount of equipment in houses, and the hospitals sometimes take it back. Surely you could get people to give it to the Red Cross, or
we do.
and so that they would do things abroad or wherever it's needed. Because I do know that in underdeveloped countries they want equipment like this. Just an observation. That's all.
Yeah, thanks, Andre.
May I respond?
Please, yeah.
We actually collect back, this year I'm predicting we'll collect back about £13 million worth of equipment. We actually have one of the biggest and highest levels of collections back in the country compared with other services. The only items that we do not actively go and collect back are things like urinals, bedpans, raised toilet seats, simple walking sticks, just the standard ones, and slide sheets, because they tend not to recycle very well and they're very, very low cost. But everything else as a service we actively go after to return. We are constantly reminding staff on the ground. We've been doing press releases recently to try and boost that awareness across the community, across health and social care. We've been trying to work with the GP practices to try and arrange if we can get some of the practices to potentially be drop-off points for equipment. We know we've had some concerns with the hospitals, particularly recently because of COVID. They've been very reluctant to have walking aids dropped off, and we had a bit of a crisis pre-Christmas about crutches and a national shortfall. We actually came through okay in the end. I was quite worried we were going to run out because we use about 500 pairs of crutches a week. But we've made it through some very careful planning and some excellent procurement on behalf of British Red Cross, who have just gone the extra mile time and time again to find us the equipment that we've needed. We've tried equipment amnesties, and actually they're very poorly poorly attended in our experience when we've tried them. The last equipment amnesty we ran for about 4 months, and we only got about half a dozen items of equipment back, which is quite sad really. But we do press releases, and we're always open to running more poster campaigns and how we can try and improve stuff. But I mean, anecdotally, I talk to people who have involved with groups like U3A, for example, who are people there who are adamant that we don't collect back, but that just isn't true. Our service goes that extra mile. We have an equipment review team that is one of these investment to save initiatives that we run through the service. And that particular team actually goes and reviews long-term loan equipment and brings back more than 30% of what they review back into the service. So it's incredibly successful. The return on investment of those kinds of initiatives we've been doing have brought back an extra £1.5 million worth of equipment each year, but there's always room for more, and we're always looking for new ways that we can improve and add more to it. But it takes resources and capacity, and I think we're at our capacity maximum at the moment as far as the staffing is concerned.
I'd be grateful if you'd take back the consensus of this meeting is that we are impressed with the service. I'm
You're
proud
welcome.
of the service
Thank you.
as well, and it contributes to the fact that we're one of the top performers when it comes to getting people discharged from hospital. Reg, sorry, you wanted to come back.
I'll just add to that, on taking back, I happened to be in the family last year where we had a lot of service because of my wife's condition, and at the end of it, when she passed, I then took all the stuff that we had donated to help and support and all that type of thing, rang up the Red Cross, and they came and took everything we asked, we put out for them, and some of the things we'd actually did ourselves. They also took that because they need it for recycling. I've been down their depot on many occasions and can see that they're recycling, and I think probably there is a message out there of families to get them to recycle and take it back, because I know the Red Cross will do it.
Yeah, thanks, Reg. It's relevant experience, isn't it? Jim?
Yeah, just very short. Thank you for that extra report, actually, on the recycling, the problems of getting back. And just an idea, do you use age concern at all? Because I know age concern on Carlton Hill actually do get things handed in that perhaps you'll get handed in elsewhere and do actually recycle. So do you use other agencies as well, like age concern?
We do tap in occasionally. We have links, certainly Red Cross, we've developed links with the police convoy system for equipment. I messed that out before. Equipment that's no longer equipment that we can't use anymore, perhaps because of sea kite marking or age or whatever. As long as it's safe and good to go, we do donate to places like the aid convoys that go overseas to support people in other countries. In terms of charities like Age Concern, last time we did a mail shot, we developed a poster with health comms teams, which we sent out to all of the age concerns and all of the charities across the county as part of our last batch of amnesties. I suspect we're due to do another run actually and try again, but I'm more than happy to try and have a chat with any organisation that they think they can help develop some stronger links. My team has also been working with the borough councils, depots as well, and the waste disposal plants as well for equipment that gets dropped off there. So part of my review team have been scampering around all the districts, sort of depot centres, making sure they're educating people, making sure people know that we can give us a call and the team will come and get it. I think there's only been one waste centre that wasn't particularly helpful, but the rest of them have been absolutely superb in accepting that, yeah, we can collect crutches back and we do recycle them. You know, the little things make such a difference overall. So
Okay,
I could go on for hours, but I won't.
Thanks very much for that. It's appreciated. And I would say as well, use us as elected members. There's 66 of us, we've all got close links in community groups and parish councils and everything else. So when the next time there's a campaign on these sorts of things, do make sure that we all are taking part in it.
Thank you.
There's if there's nobody else, Mike.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of things. I had personal experience myself over the last couple of years and found it very difficult to find anybody that knew what to do with it. So I don't know whether there's an issue in the north of the county with Red Cross, or whether it's an issue of training of staff and making people and suppliers and users aware of where the equipment is able to be returned. But it'd be interesting to see where the performance is in terms of the lowest returns levels by district in future. I'm not asking for it now, but it will be interesting to see in the future. And also whether or not we change supplier, that we ensure that supplier actually trains staff and makes hospitals, doctors and all the other users aware of where the equipment can and what can be returned. Because I've had elderly people whose partners have died in several stages of distress because they can't get rid of equipment, and I found it difficult myself. So it would be useful to have that information in future.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mike. Perhaps Michael can tell us, is there something within the tendering process that makes sure there's consistency right across the county?
Absolutely, there is. Yes, yeah. Within, again, the negotiating process, we've got a chance to challenge a provider's solution, and a clear equity of service across the whole of the county, including city council, is important to us, and that's one of the important outcomes. So, yeah.
Okay, that's reassuring to hear. Is there anybody else? If not, can I ask to see everybody in favour? And that's unanimous. That's carried. Thank you very much. The final item is the work programme. I'll move the recommendation. Obviously, post-reorganisation, not all these committees will actually take place. Those will be posted to the relevant place after that. Mike, you wanted to?
Just a quick one. Obviously, we've got a platinum year coming up, and I'm assuming that we're going to be asked about finances. Can we have a look at something like that, even if after the budget? But
yeah, I think there is some work going on
I know
that.
we put something out about supporting in the community, but you know.
I know there is some work going on. I don't know where it'll be reported to, but it'll be reported. Roger.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Not working. I just think in the future, I'm not sure how many more committees we've got before we change governance, is that we have more member input and overseeing of any large financial projects in this cabinet. You know, we've had some one or two just go overspend recently. I think it's important that we oversee as the project's going on to make sure that it's on track and in line. Because I hate to think now we're going to get things finances tight, so let's make sure that we spend every book properly.
Yeah, I know that's something that they're looking at. Philip Owen's committee is looking at as it looks at the new structure. Is there anybody else, anything to add? Okay, in which case, can I see everybody in favour of the work programme? Okay, so that's also carried, so I've closed the meeting. Thank you all very much.